Hello, Prosperivarians. The best school has come to stay in the city of Calabar. It is called Beryl International Schools. Take advantage of this opportunity now.
Tell me the best school, Beryl is the best. Tell me the best school.
Hello and welcome to Beryl International Schools. Welcome back to our online lessons. And today we'll be having basic science lessons for Jss2 and 3. And our topic will be measurement. But before we go further, let's visit our previous topic. In our previous class, we treated rust or rusting. Can you still remember what I told you about rust? Okay, that we said or we defined rust or rusting to be the orange or red coating that forms in our metals or ions as a result of exposure to air mixture or moisture. So when your metal or when your iron is exposed to air moisture, etc., it forms a rust. And we did mention ways in which you can prevent your metallic object from getting rust or from rusting. And we said that you should do what? You should coat them with oil, you should paint them, etc. Okay, welcome back to the class of the day, or the topic of the day, which is what? Measurement. Now, during the course of this lesson, we are going to learn how to explain, or we're going to explain the meaning of measurement. We are also going to mention measurement devices. We're also going to demonstrate the measurement of length, mass, time, temperature, weight, and volume. We're also going to learn how to convert from degree Fahrenheit to degree Celsius vis-a-vis. Vis-a-vis here simply means we're going to learn how to convert from degree Fahrenheit to degree Celsius, and vis-a-vis means we're also going to convert from degree Celsius to what? To degree Fahrenheit. Okay, now let's take the first objective. Meaning of measurement. What then should be meaning of measurement? We say measurement is an aspect of science which is very important. It is used to detect things. The idea of measurement can be traced to the time of our early men, although they never documented their measuring instruments or devices. They had their own way of measuring things. So one would say, before we continue, one would ask, or one would wonder, what really is measurement? But let me bring it back to your homes. When you see your mom cooking, most times in the kitchen, do you observe her? Do you see how she cooks? Do you observe that there is a method she uses in adding salt to the food she cooks? There is a method she uses in adding the Maggi. There is another method she uses in adding water. So that can also be termed measurement. Why is it so? Because measurement has to do with the quantity of things or the quantity of substances you add into another. Take for instance, your mom wants to cook maybe beans, and she turns a whole 20-liter bucket of water into the pot. What happens? You're going to eat watery beans, is that not so? But if the quantity of water added to the beans to cook it is measured, you have a very nice meal. How about salt? If she opens a whole sachet of salt or the whole pack of salt and adds to the food she's cooking without measuring it, what happens? You will realize that, number one, preparing that food is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for you to learn how to prepare that same food. And then eating that food, the food is going to be too salty. You won't be able to eat it. Now, if she also uses a teaspoon to measure the quantity of the quantity of salt to add in while cooking beans, what happens? It becomes easier for you to learn. You will know, okay, if I'm cooking 3 cups of beans, I'm supposed to use a teaspoon of salt or 2 teaspoons of salt. to prepare that beans, and I need to use 2 cubes of Maggi or 1 cube of Maggi as the case may be. But without this measurement, you won't know how you should apply these things and the quantity at which it should be applied. So the things to be measured are called quantities. Some of these quantities include mass, time, weight, force, pressure, temperature, density, etc. Now, during the course of this lesson, we are going to use this instrument. This can be called measuring instrument or measuring devices. We're going to use them to learn how to measure the temperature, like we have in our third objective, that we're going to learn to measure length, mass, temperature, time, weight, volume, etc. Okay, now let's take this. Each of these quantities has specific units with which they are identified. Before now, there was problem of unifying the units used for quantities, since different scientists from different countries and continents use different units. However, after a thorough study, some basic units were eventually discovered. These units are collectively called by the international system. So let's take a pause. Now, there are times we learn about basic science and we mention the term, the SI unit of this is that, the SI unit of that is this, and we don't know where the SI unit is coming from. Most times you fail to ask the question, sir, what's the meaning of this SI unit? We have it here today. So SI unit here means what? The international system. So the SI unit of units. Now this unit gives each quantity a standard unit which is recognized all over the world. And let's also take a listen to density. Density is defined as the mass per unit volume. If the volume is constant, then the density of a substance can be likened to the mass of that substance. Now let's take a listen to the measuring devices. We can call this also measuring instruments. If you don't want to call it a measuring device, you can also call it measuring instruments. So measuring instruments or devices can be identified based on their type of functions. Example, measuring devices or measuring instruments for width, measuring instruments for length, measuring devices for time, and measuring measuring devices or measuring instruments for volume, etc. Now, like we said earlier, they are classified or stated based on their type of function. So we have here measuring instruments or measuring devices for weight. The first one we have here is a chemical balance. We also have a lever arm balance. We also have a weight bridge, spring balance, and a bathroom scale. Now this is a typical example of a measuring instrument for weight. This is a weight balance, electronic weight balance. This one uses electricity. This is the AC plug. It also has a part here where you can use battery, and it can take maximum of 2 kg as its weight. Now, if you visit hospitals or most clinics, you will always see that they have this weight balance. When you come there, you have to use it to check your weight, to know your body weight, in order to know the dosage or the kinds of drug to administer to you. It's always very important. We have too many of them here. We have so many of them here that I've listed, but I'm showing you just one of it here as an example. So when you see it, you'll be able to identify it. This one is made of plastic, but others are made of what? Metals. We have others that are made of metals too. Okay. We also have types of balance. Since we already mentioned here that we have chemical balance, lever arm balance, spring balance, etc. We have types of balance over here, and this type of balance here, now we have equal balance, platform balance, and compression balance. Yes. Now we also have the measuring instrument for length. Measuring instrument for length. We have height scale, meter ruler, tape ruler, vernier caliper, vernier caliper. We have micrometer screw gauge. So this is a typical example of measuring instrument for length. This is called a meter ruler. That's the second one here. I got my figure 2. This is a meter ruler. If you look at this meter ruler, you will see we have both centimeters here, cm numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up to number 99. Number 99. Yes, this is a typical example of a measuring instrument, and it's called a meter ruler. We also have measuring instrument for time. Measuring instrument for time, and we say we have the Egyptian water clock. This is Egyptian water clock. Yes. We have the Egyptian water clock, we have the pendulum clock, we have the wall clock, and we also have the stopwatch or the stop clock. This is a typical example. I'm sure if you remember, you see it working. Look closely, you see it's going. Yes, it is. It can be used as an instrument for time. Now, if you remember, most times when you're writing your exam and your teacher or your invigilator tells you that you have 60 minutes to write this exam, or you have 1 hour and 30 seconds to write this exam, this is usually used. Most times, it's usually used, and you see when it takes round clockwise, it gives you the time, it helps you to know the time. Okay, we also have measuring instrument of volume. Measuring instrument of volume. And we have here the measuring cylinder, we have the dropping pipettes, and we have the burettes. Now, this is a measuring cylinder. This is what a measuring cylinder looks like. Have you seen? Okay. And it is 250 mil plus 2 additional mil. You can just say this is a measuring cylinder of 250 mil. We also have a smaller one here, depending on what you want to do. This one is 10 mil, ranging from 0 to 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Have you seen? We also mentioned a drop-in pipette here. This is a typical example of a pipette. So I don't call it pipette, it's a pipette. So this is a typical example of a pipette. This is what it looks like. If you take a close look, you'll see. And it is what's the size? It is 25 mil with 20 degrees Celsius, 25 mil. We also mentioned another one here, burette. Burette. This is a typical example of a burette. This is 50 mils. You see it is numbered from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, up to what? 50. It follows suit up to 50. Now there is something I didn't show you earlier about some of these. You see, now this one that ranges, you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This is a measuring cylinder, small size of measuring cylinder. Now, here is 0. Here, just from the bottom here is 0. Now, from here to this point is 1. Here is 2. And from here to this other point, the middle here, where there is no number written, that is 3. And here is 4. And from this 4 to where there is no number here is 5. Where there is no number is 5, and here is 6. From here to here is 7. Here is 8, already numbered. From here to here is 9, and here is what? 10. Beautiful. And then we also have, okay, we mentioned pipettes and the burettes. Now, these are not the only measuring instruments or gadgets that we do have for volume. We also have a beaker. We have a beaker here, 250 ml of beaker. See, this is 50. So this meeting point here should be what? From here to here should be 25. From here to here gives another 50. So if you add 25 to this 50, which is the meeting point here, the middle here, you have 25 plus 50 will give you what? 75. So from 75, which is the middle here, to this point will now give you 100. You see? So from this point to this point is 50. If you divide into 2, it means the meeting point will be what? 25. It follows suit up to 250. And this is a small size of another beaker. This one here is 100 ml. Now, how do you use this instrument? The pipe, the pipette, the burette, measuring cylinder, and the beakers. How do you use them? Assuming you want to carry out a practical, let's say diffusion. You remember diffusion? I taught you diffusion in the previous class. I've taught you diffusion, if you remember, where we did add water, distilled water. We added distilled water into the cylinder or the beaker, and then we now added a substance called potassium permanganate, if you remember, and then we allowed it. We carried out this practical with room temperature water and high temperature water. If you remember our observations where the molecules move from the region of lower concentration to the region of high concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So, how do you get this done? When you want to carry out any practical, if you to use distilled water, you ensure that you mix the water according to the measurements. If it gets to this point here, it means you have the water up to what? 75 mils. And if you are like to get to 100, this point here, it means you have up to 100 mils. Now this enables you to know your mixture. It enables you to know the amount of distilled water or any other chemical to use for any given particle, so you don't mix up your results in order for you to get your correct result. Okay, now we've been able to treat the first objective here, which is to explain the meaning of measurement, and we've also been able to mention the measuring devices. Now in our next class, we are going to demonstrate measurements of length, mass, time, temperature, weight, and volume using this measuring instrument that we've listed or that we've kept aside here. We're going to do that in our next class, and we're also going to convert from degree of Fahrenheit to degree of Celsius, vis-a-vis. Okay, now let's take a recap. So we said the measurement is an aspect of science which is very, very important, as it helps us to know the quantity of quantities at which one should use while carrying out any practical or any experiment in any field of study. Let me put it that way. And then we've also mentioned measuring devices or measuring instruments based on their types and functions. And we did mention, or we did state that measuring devices for weight, we have the weight balance. Measuring devices for length, we have the meter ruler. Measuring devices we also mentioned, we also explained that we have equal balance, platform balance, and compression, etc. So now I would love you to do this for me. I'd love you to do this assignment for me. I would like you to mention other measuring devices or instruments based on their types and functions not mentioned above. This means do research. There are other measuring instruments or devices that we have not mentioned here, that we have not stated on the board for you. So I need you to carry out the research and list those measuring devices or instruments that I have not mentioned here for you. Please do this assignment and submit for me as soon as possible. Till we meet in our next class, do stay safe.